So I'm going to have a quick talk today about the voices that we're giving, the natural human voices that we're giving to AI voice assistants, and most specifically in the Google Assistant. So my work is not specialist in voice assistants, but it's a passion I have and an interest I have. My focus, in fact, is that I am a computer science educator, previous teacher, and now a PhD researcher in cybersecurity, especially in education. I run 2 GDGs, Google Developer Groups, one in Oxford, UK, and I'm based in London, and one across the world in Iraq. And it's completely 2 different regions, so that's really interesting. Nina also told you I have a community organization where we teach children to code in the UK in underrepresented areas, so that's a passion I have. So when looking at the way technology is shifting over the years, we realize every decade or so, every around 10 years, we have a major shift in the world of computing. And we started off in the 70s with the mainframe computer. Everyone's excited. We moved on to desktop. The internet came, changed our lives. And then we started focusing on mobile. And for the past around 12 or 13 years, we've been really focused on mobile. But recently, in the last few years, we see big companies like Amazon and Google and Apple really focusing on voice assistants, on AI assistants. And the main reason behind that is the importance of time and how much dedication we have for time. And time always trumps money. We used to say time equals money. But in reality, time is much more important than money because money comes and goes. And once time goes, it's never coming back. I know it goes without saying, but it's really important for us to focus on the reasons why we're depending on AI assistants. Previously, you know, if you want to get something done, you'd have to go on your mobile or on your laptop and take some time to get things done, whereas now we can depend on our voices to quickly order flowers, find out what the weather is. As I'm leaving for work, you know, do I need a jacket? What's the weather like in Georgia? So, you know, using our voices to find out information is saving us a lot of time and making things much more efficient. So companies are really focusing on that now. A quick, brief overview of the world of AI assistants that we have. So although Apple started with their Siri quite early on and with the iPhone 4S, and that was really exciting, but I think the majority of us, those who own Apple iPhones, came to realize that we're only using Siri for a little bit of fun, and we're not getting much information from it. And although Google Assistant did come out in 2016, it's trumped all the other assistants with regards to the technology that they're using, the speed in which it gets things done, just the complex algorithms behind the assistant and what it's able to do for us compared to every other assistant. And that's why I'd really like to focus on the Google Assistant this session. One of the amazing things is that once you create an action on Google or a Google Assistant app, it's available on a variety of devices. You've got around 1 billion devices right now around the world that are able to use that application that you create, whether it's an Android phone, an iPhone, fridges, speakers, cars, you know, home speakers, watches. These are all making, you know, the difference that you make when you create an application. It's spanning across 1 billion devices, to the point that, you know, I'm sure lots of you have heard of Google's idea of the MBU, the next billion users, the next billion devices that we're going to have applications working on. So there's a huge impact. Sundar Pichai, a couple of years ago, focused a lot on, yes, we've spent the last 10 years focusing on mobile and Android and what we can do with that. But for the next 10 years, we really want to focus on artificial intelligence. So they're really putting in their power and ability to focus on their AI and assistants. We see there's a huge shift happening with regards to all types of devices that we're using. So although we think that there is this ideology and people being skeptical about robots taking over, but in fact, if we look at it, robots are helping us in so many ways. Artificial intelligence is really helping humans evolve and become stronger in what they're doing, such as using it in surgeries for precision and not having to make mistakes as a human person would do after standing on their feet for 12 or 15 hours. Yes, it turned out to be a joke, but the hotel in Japan that was being run by robots and assistants, and their efficiency in being able to get things done faster. self-driving cars that we all know about. You know, humans are becoming more, I feel like, although people feel like there is a skepticism that robots are taking over our work, I actually feel like they are freeing up our ability and our strength and our productivity as humans to be able to do something much higher. You know, instead of spending hours driving, we can now use that time to be more productive, create something, especially in countries where people are driving 2, 3, 4 hours a day, going to work and coming back from work. We can really utilize this time to get something done. One of the best things that we can do using the assistant is that we can plan our day on the way to work. We can be listening to podcasts or find out what our agenda is or order things and get things done. So, sorry about the unclear picture. But if we look at chatbots and where they started, just a quick brief history. It started with Dr. Weizenbaum in the MIT lab where he created ELIZA in 1966. So that started off as something that was supposed to be a therapist. You know, maybe sometimes humans need a therapist or a counselor that they need to talk to, but they don't feel like they can confide in a human being. And so he created this as a test, as a chatbot, which was supposed to be a psychotherapist, but in fact it wasn't actually doing much. It was just repeating the answers that it was being given into question-like. And so Dr. Weizenbaum got his secretary to test it, and this was supposed to be just a little experiment for him. But the secretary became so intrigued and so interested in the way Eliza was replying to her that she asked the professor to leave the room because she wanted to be comfortable in the way she was using this chatbot. So we realized early on, 40, 50 years ago, that humans actually want to have an interaction with machines, but seem to forget sometimes that they are talking to a machine. So I'm sure most of you have seen this video in Google I/O, but just in case people haven't, and I want to talk about the context of the technology that's used in the Google Assistant, which is Google Duplex, I'd like to play a quick video of the announcement they made last year in Google Developer Conference I/O 2018 on the ability for Google Assistant to do things in the background. That was really interesting for me, and sitting out there between the audience, I was so intrigued. You know, everyone's really excited that now, at the end of the day, that Lisa, you know, that client, she's just driving to her work, and this was all done seamlessly in the background. All she did was tell her assistant to book a haircut, the date and time, and then the assistant, once that's done, brings back the information and books it in the calendar, which is absolutely amazing. We're like, okay, so much can be done. We think of all the possibilities. However, at the same time, there was a surge of people you know, worried about what kind of technologies, what kind of uses this technology can be affecting. You know, will people use it maliciously? And the answer really is that at the end of the day, so many technologies do come into our lives, and we can either use them in a good way to make our lives easier, or we can use them in a malicious way and hurt people. So it really just comes back down to how people use it. Now, the technologies that were used, three technologies that were used to power Google Duplex were the natural language understanding, deep learning, and text-to-speech. All the investments that Google made in their artificial intelligence in these three technologies were put together to create this amazing technology, which I'm really intrigued by. I'm also worried about, with regards to the ethics, we will talk about it in a couple of minutes, the ethical issues that are worrying people. So if we realized it put, you know, automatic speech recognition and understood the context when she's asking her, you know, between 10 and noon, it's taking some time. Those ums and ahas are the computer giving it time to process and understand the context in which this speech is happening. So when the assistant is not going to start repeating the information right from the start. She's just going to continue, which is amazing technology, and then converts to text-to-speech and gives the result. So one of the biggest ethical concerns that people have is, for example, Professor Roger Moore from Sheffield University, UK, specialist in natural language understanding and processing. He says, they're telling us that it will tell people it's an artificial system. You don't need to do that if it had a clearly artificial voice. So this came from when people came and attacked Google and they said, look, she has such a natural voice. It is a human right for us to understand that this is a machine. So when a person picks up, I should know that I'm talking to a machine. I shouldn't have to think that I'm talking to a person. This is unethical, this isn't right, it's not morally correct. You know, we're humans, we need to know when we're talking to a machine. So Google came back and said, okay, we will have the machine introduce itself as Google Assistant or Duplex before it continues. Now, one way I understand why people would feel that, you know, it is our right. I need to know whether I'm talking to a human being who feels empathy, who understands what I'm talking about. But at the same time, if a machine is to call us, so hands up, I don't know if we have systems here in Georgia where you get automatic calls from a machine like, hi, are you interested in such and such? Do we have such a thing in Georgia? Or you don't get random calls from, oh, thank God, well, you're lucky. So what we have in the UK is a random number picks up and you think it's a company or a water company or something, and you've got a machine going, hello, you know, we'd like to sell such and such to you. Or the latest, most famous one that happens in the UK is, we heard you were in a car crash, so an insurance company. And the moment you pick that up and you hear a machine, I'm shutting it off. Don't waste my time. And so as a human, I know that that's a machine talking. However, if it was a human talking, I would actually give it a few more moments and listen to what they have to say, because it's polite, isn't it? You know, even if we don't want to hear their voice, we'll give them a few moments to talk and then just shut it in their face. So I understand why they'd think that, but Professor Roger Morth believes that, no, you don't need to give them such a smooth voice. You can just let them sound like a machine. So it's a big argument that that's happening. So the three main ideas that we have, the three main myths, let's say, is that why is it using things like and upspeak, like that, you know, the sound that we make when we're asking a question? So these are the voices that they've used with deep neural networks to figure out how humans talk. And if we didn't have that, as I said earlier, would the assistant really be able to do its work? Is it actually an assistant? If it's not being able to do, you know, it'll call back and be like, yeah, they shut the phone in my face, I couldn't make that reservation for you. So, you know, what's the point of being the assistant? So natural language nuances, it understands the context in which humans speak. And it's also been used as a clever way to give the machine a couple of seconds to process what's happening, understand the context, and be able to answer. So yes, it's an ethical concern, but it's also quite a cool thing. Another ethical issue that people worry about is that there's the age of disinformation. Nowadays, when we go on the internet, you really don't know what's true and what's not. We've got the whole idea of fake news. We don't know if this picture that's being put out there is real or has it been photoshopped. You know, everyone's living this glamorous life and all these advertising pictures are coming up to show us, you know, buy me or you know, work with me and things like that, just to grab our attention. So one of the ethical concerns that people have, and, you know, especially in the world of law and laws of AI, is that should we be feeding people even more disinformation, or should we make them aware that this is a machine that's talking to them? Are we allowed to do this or not? It's a really interesting thing to think about, especially when we think of the uses and how much, how amazing it is as a technology. And one last ethical concern, and it's more of a societal concern as well, is that digital natives. So hands up, do we know what digital natives are? Just in case, I don't want to. Okay, so we have the digital natives, the people who were born 2002 afterwards, who were native to technology. That's when most people had internet in the house, okay? And then there's people like me, who were born way before there, who are called digital immigrants. We were only like 10, 12, 14 when the internet came to our houses, and it's something that we learned to use, unlike kids who, you know, they're born 2, 3 days old and they're able to use an iPad nowadays. Amazing. So we're worried now that, you know, parents and teachers, as an educator, it's something that also worries me. You go into the classroom and these students don't know how to talk to one another. You know, we've always got children or teenagers having difficulty conversing with other people, talking to people on the phone. That's a nightmare for them because they're so used to texting and emailing and double-clicking because that's all they can do. So this is one of the ethical concerns and societal concerns we have, is that digital natives, the youth now, are losing further skills because now they never have to pick up the phone. And for me, that makes me really excited because it's not something I enjoy doing, but it's a concern for many people. But if we were to really dig down deep, and I've only got a couple of minutes, so I don't want to hold you up from getting an opportunity to go to the workshop either, is that although, yes, we say this machine is able to naturally speak and understands the nuances of natural language, in reality, if we look at the blog posts that they've put, Google AI has put, and many artificial intelligence systems have put, is that although the AI is trained to do one thing, it's not able to do something unrelated. So what that means is that the amount of focus that they put, the only reason the assistant was able to make this call was that it was fed thousands and thousands of examples of phone calls and how they're done between humans. So it's not able to then say, what's your favorite color? What's your age? It doesn't understand that, quote unquote. It's only trained in a specific area. So unless we were to invest so much in this machine where it's going to, understand how to speak a whole conversation, that's not something we need to worry about. It's only confined in this specific thing. Another thing I said earlier is that if it sounds like a machine, it's not going to get the work done, and therefore it's irrelevant, because what's the point if the assistant can't get the work done? And one amazing thing that we can use to bust these myths is that now we can use the assistant to negotiate, for example, the internet provider or your mobile phone provider. Sometimes people like me, for example, I personally have a lot of difficulty when I'm trying to appeal a parking ticket, for example, and say, no, it wasn't my fault, I didn't do that. I compromise straight away. And my sisters are always talking about me, and they're like, you need to negotiate, you need to ask for a better deal. So we can depend on assistants to be able to do that for us, for people who have difficulty negotiating with others a better price or a better deal or a better opportunity. So maybe one day even be able to negotiate with our bosses a better salary. You never know. But if you're interested in reading about the blog post, it's down there. It's a bit low, but I don't know if we can share the slides. They're available. It's the AI Google blog for duplex, and explains the whole concept of duplex. And with that, Madloba. Did I say it right? I have 27 seconds.
Wow.
27 seconds to take questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments in the audience?
Please.
So, Mike,
should I?
Yeah.
Also, if you feel like it's difficult for you to speak up, that's my Twitter handle, and I'm always available. Feel free to direct message me. But
hello there. So one of the biggest motivation to come here was this speech, actually, because I'm a developer. I'm recently, in a couple of 2 years, I'm working on the issues of AI ethics. So I have kind of a question and also a comment, but I know how hard it is to answer a straightforward answer to the question about AI ethics. But to this specific example that you provided about the speech, whether the humans can be should have a knowledge about whether they are talking to a robot or not. I just wonder your assumptions or assessment whether we should provide the knowledge about it. But my comment would be for example, GDPR, the major regulation now in Europe, they provided a requirement that a human should know that there is the decision maker when a decision is made by the machine. We must know about that the decision was made by the machine. So it has to be the same for this speech recognition as well. That when we talk to machine, we should know that we are talking to machine, and there is no another answer like for me, at least. But I just wonder about your opinion to that. But I have many other discussions for it, and I would like to talk to you in private. And if you have time to stay here.
Thank you very much for that. Actually, I'm staying all day because I'm really excited to meet the whole community. It's my first time in Georgia, and with the amazing I've learned so much about the Georgian culture, so I'm staying all day. And I'd love to hear, but the concept you gave right now is a whole PhD paper right there, because yes, we're right in the middle of a limbo. You know, we need to have that information, we need to give that information. So my opinion is very similar to yours. I believe that people who pick up the phone or who are talking to this machine need to know they're talking to a machine, but we need to find a smoother way of getting people to accept that they're talking to a machine. And I think that most probably requires time and educating people that when you're talking to a certain machine, it's trying to get something done. So it's very specific, I understand that, and we're in the middle of it right now, so.
Does it work? Oh, okay. I think that's quite different examples, like, for example, getting your assistant a job done, and also someone's sale representative trying to selling you something. So maybe this seller cannot get their job done, the robot seller, but assistant can get done because they're just an assistant. And then people, when people already know and get used to the robots that they already do serve as an assistant, then they just work like that.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's very complicated. Like, would we just give face and give an opportunity to an assistant but not to a human? That makes it even worse. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it later.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.